Hello, class. Ashley Crawford here with week's 5 final mass communication project. I had decided to choose to research and explore really decisions and game time decisions. I chose to do this by examining the game show, it's a reality TV game show, Survivor. We know a lot about reality TV these days. Reality TV has been on and has been going for a while now. TV shows like The Real World, The Real Housewives, shows like that have become phenomenons and have really taken off and somewhat show a glimpse of what I guess everyday reality would be like for some people. Of course, not your typical people if you are watching shows like Keeping Up with the Kardashians. However, reality TV, of course, is sectioned off into genres, and one of those genres is reality competitions. Shows like Big Brother, The Amazing Race, MTV's The Challenge, and then, of course, the one that we are going to be looking at today, CBS's game show, Survivor. So Survivor has been on for now this season, this year. It will release its 42nd season. So it has been a phenomenon and a fad and has kept us intrigued for over 20 years now. And what I would like to do is just look at Survivor and talk about how some aspects of the game are not exactly fair. They don't play out and they don't favor everyone fairly. And if you look at Survivor, you can really see a clear correlation between the game structure and democracy and how it plays out. We'll get into it later, but how it plays out into what I like to call the authority of the majority. Because if you aim with the majority, just like honestly with anything in life, you really are excluded and overlooked and just kicked to the curb. And so one thing we know about democracy is really, again, led by the majority. In a democracy, you have a group of people who are either nominated or somehow a group of people is set in power. They somehow have been set in a position of power to make decisions and cast votes and things like that. And if you think about Survivor, that's exactly what happens. So you get your 16 strangers, they are put on an island, and they somewhat have to create a new society and a new economy within each tribe. So within these tribes, you'll have a ringleader, someone who thinks they're the brains, someone who thinks they're the bronze, and then someone who can really go out and provide. If you watch season 41, which was last year's season, you would have seen a individual named Nasir who did not have great skills as far as challenges, was not a great social player. However, he was an extreme provider as far as getting food for the tribe, so they kept him around. That to me shows, as far as when you're in a show about gameplay, that right there, just keeping someone around because they benefit you, that really shows how a democracy works. And so one thing I would like to look at is just the game structure and the way Survivor is set up. If you do not have an alliance of some sort, you more than likely will not make it very far in the game. And then these alliances really control the majority. So on a Survivor, each week after merge, as you're voted out, that person joins the jury. And then that jury decides whether or not you win $1 million. So if you're on the island and you are voting off people, more than likely you're going to ruffle some feathers, and these people here are not going to want you to win in the end. That's where you really have to control the authority of the majority. And so I would like to look at two individuals, and this is Russell Hans and Sandra Diaz's Survivor's game. They two totally separate players. Russell was aggressive. He took charge. He did anything he needed to. He played dirty if he had to, but he also won competitions. He found immunity idols. Whereas Sandra, if you look at her game and stack her game up, she did not have much of a skill as far as physical. She wasn't a physical threat. She did have a very good social game, but also what she had was tenure. She had status. She knew the other players. They all had relationships outside of the game. And that is something you really have to think about when you think about Survivor and the game structure and the fact that it's been around for years, or that other people have already formed relationships. And so if you look at Sandra and Russell's, who they both played on Heroes versus Villains, I believe they made it to the final three, both of them, where Sandra was crowned winner, even though Russell played a better game. But it's all about the majority, which in reality is not fair. If you look at Russell, Russell was pretty positive that he had the vote. So he took along two people with him who he thought he was going to outwit, outlast, and outplay. However, in the end, he did not judge the jury and did not manage that jury well. And so in the end, all of the votes were cast and given to Sandra. Now, much like a democracy or even a presidential election, even if a president wins all of the popular votes, all of them, it's the electoral college that decides whether or not, that person is the winner. And so it kind of got me thinking about Survivor, and is that really fair, especially because usually the way that the seasons are cast, there's not a lot of diversity on the cast. And so the majority is either, in Sandra's case, is if you have tenure and people know you and like you, or the majority is the majority of whatever the majority is on the island, because each season they're cast and divided by different statuses. One season they did white collar versus blue collar versus no collar. So it just depends. There can be a majority of African Americans, which we got to see in season 41 of Survivor. So in conclusion, I would just going back, and just because it was the most recent season 41 of Survivor, if you look at that season and you look at the overall diversity within that season and that cast, you can really see how it influenced game decisions and how we really got to see a totally different game than we have seen before, and even a totally different winner than we've seen before. And we have our first Filipino woman winner, Erica, who won season 41 of Survivor. Even the overall game and the show was just more intriguing because of the more diversity. It made for a better economy. There was a less elite democracy, if you would say, and just more overall gameplay and more people involved in making decisions, rather than everyone just going along with the authority of the majority.